We all know that feeling, don't we? That persistent, nagging sense of being adrift, of trying our absolute best, but still feeling like we're slogging through treacle. It's the invisible fog that descends, blurring our goals, muffling our intuition, and turning simple decisions into Herculean tasks. We yearn for a direct path, a crystal-clear vision. Yet so often, we find ourselves caught in a labyrinth of self-doubt and conflicting signals. Why is clarity such an elusive prize in a world saturated with information and instant gratification? Why do we, intelligent and capable individuals, so frequently grapple with this profound lack of understanding, not just about the world around us, but about our own desires, our true purpose, and the optimal steps to take? This isn't just about making a tough choice at a crossroads. It's about the very fabric of our daily existence, the constant hum of uncertainty that can undermine our confidence, erode our peace of mind, and ultimately prevent us from truly thriving. It's a universal human experience, this struggle against the murky waters of confusion, and for countless people, it feels like an inescapable condition. But what if it isn't? What if there's a way to cut through the haze, to see with unwavering precision, and to move forward with unshakable conviction? This very question consumed Steven Cesari, a man who, like many of us, once navigated his own tumultuous seas of uncertainty, but who, unlike most, dedicated his life to not just understanding this phenomenon, but to meticulously charting a course out of it. His journey became an obsession, a relentless pursuit of the fundamental principles that govern human understanding, a quest that promised to unlock the profound truths that, once revealed, could transform our lives from a muddled mess into a symphony of purpose and direction. Today, we embark on that journey with him, delving into the core discoveries that promise to illuminate our path and remove the pervasive confusion that has held us captive for far too long. Steven Cesari's own journey into the realm of clarity wasn't born out of an academic curiosity or theoretical exercise. It sprang from a deep, personal wellspring of frustration and profound sense of disillusionment with the conventional approaches to self-improvement and problem-solving. Before he became the architect of the principles outlined in Clarity, Cesari was, by his own admission, a man ensnared in the very confusion he now helps others overcome. He found himself at a crossroads, both professionally and personally, staring down a landscape of options that seemed equally appealing and equally fraught with peril. He had achieved a degree of success, certainly, but it fell hollow, built upon a foundation that lacked true meaning and direction. Decisions that should have been straightforward became agonizing internal battles, each path he considered seemingly leading to further ambiguity. He tried all the conventional wisdom, journaling, goal-setting workshops, endless self-help books, even consulting various mentors and advisors. Each offered a piece of the puzzle, a glimmer of insight, but none provided a comprehensive framework, the bedrock understanding that could truly resolve the pervasive sense of being lost. His specific struggle was not a lack of intelligence or capability. It was a surplus of conflicting information, internal narratives that clashed, and external pressures that pulled him in myriad directions. He felt like a ship without a rudder, caught in a perpetual storm of indecision, constantly second-guessing his own instincts and the advice of others. The cost of this perpetual state of confusion was immense. Lost opportunities, strained relationships, and gnawing dissatisfaction that seeped into every aspect of his existence. He yearned for a way to quiet the internal noise, to discern the signal from the incessant static, to tap into an inner compass that felt true and unwavering. This period of intense personal struggle, this deep immersion in the very problem he sought to solve, became the crucible in which his groundbreaking insights would be forged. It was a dark night of the soul, a prolonged period of introspection and exasperation that ultimately propelled him on his relentless quest, a quest born not of abstract theory, but of a desperate, urgent need to find a way out of the fog, not just for himself, but for anyone else who felt similarly trapped in the quagmire of their own uncertainty. His before state was a vivid testament to human condition when clarity is absent, a stark illustration of the immense need for the solution he would ultimately discover. His first major breakthrough came not from an esoteric philosophy, but from a meticulous examination of how we actually perceive and process information. Cesari recognized that much of our confusion stems from an undifferentiated input stream, a constant torrent of data, ideas, and experiences that we attempt to synthesize without a proper filtering mechanism. He termed his initial revelation the principle of distinctness. He discovered that the human mind, in its default state, often operates like a wide-angle lens, taking in everything at once, blurring the edges, and making it difficult to focus on any single element with precision. Confusion, he posited, isn't necessarily a lack of information, but often an inability to distinguish one piece of information from another, to separate what is essential from what is extraneous. To illustrate this, Cesari recounts an early experiment, simple yet profound, involving a group of individuals presented with a complex business problem. One group was given all the data at once, a sprawling spreadsheet of numbers and figures, and asked to identify the core issue and propose a solution. The other group was given the same data, but it was presented in distinct, isolated chunks, each piece highlighted and analyzed individually before moving to the next. The results were startling. The first group struggled immensely, reporting feelings of overwhelm and making significantly more errors in their analysis. The second group, however, not only identified the core problem with greater accuracy, but also formulated more innovative and effective solutions. And they did so with considerably less stress. This wasn't about simplifying the data, Cesari explained. It was about presenting it in a way that allowed the mind to distinguish one variable from another, one assumption from another, one piece of evidence from another. He applied this principle to his own life, realizing that his personal confusion often stemmed from attempting to solve multifaceted problems by treating them as a single, amorphous blob. When he began to consciously break down his challenges into their constituent parts, identifying distinct fears, distinct desires, distinct obstacles, the solutions, or at least the next steps, began to emerge with startling clarity. For example, a seemingly overwhelming career decision, which previously felt like a tangled ball of anxieties, could be broken down into distinct elements. The financial implications, the personal fulfillment aspect, the potential for growth, the impact on family, and so on. By isolating and examining each distinct component, the emotional charge diminished and rational, objective assessment became possible. It was akin to untangling a knot, thread by thread, rather than trying to cut through the entire mess. This principle, the power of making distinctions, became the foundational layer of his methodology, a revelation that began to untangle not just business problems, but the pervasive personal confusion that had plagued him and so many others. However, as powerful as the principle of distinctness proved to be, Cesari quickly encountered its limitations. While it was excellent for dissecting a complex problem into its individual components, it didn't inherently provide a framework for prioritizing those distinct elements or for understanding their interrelationships. He found that even after clearly distinguishing all the separate factors involved in a decision or a challenge, people could still feel stuck, overwhelmed by a new kind of clarity, a clarity of too many options, each appearing equally significant. This led him to a deeper, more nuanced discovery, a new challenge that the first principle alone couldn't fully address. Consider the executive who, after meticulously breaking down all the distinct factors contributing to their company's declining market share, still faced a paralyzing decision: invest heavily in R&D, launch an aggressive marketing campaign, or overhaul internal operations. Each was a distinct and valid path, but without a guiding principle to weigh their relative importance and impact, the executive remained in a state of advanced, albeit more informed, confusion. This predicament spurred Cesari to investigate what truly drives effective action and understanding beyond mere differentiation. His subsequent breakthrough was what he termed the principle of causal hierarchy. This principle posits that not all distinct elements are created equal. Some are more fundamental, more primary, more causal than others. Confusion often arises not just from a lack of distinction, but from an inability to correctly identify the root causes and their subsequent effects, leading us to focus on symptoms rather than the underlying issues. Cesari delved into numerous case studies. One particularly illustrative example involved a manufacturing plant plagued by persistent production delays. Applying the principle of distinctness, they identified dozens of distinct problems: machine breakdowns, supply chain disruptions, employee absenteeism, quality control failures, and communication gaps, among others. While knowing these distinct problems was helpful, it didn't immediately suggest where to allocate resources or what to address first. When Cesari introduced the principle of causal hierarchy, they began to ask, which of these distinct problems causes the others? It became clear that poor machine maintenance, a relatively distinct issue, was a primary cause of many breakdowns, which in turn caused production delays and led to frustrated employees, increasing absenteeism. Similarly, a lack of clear communication was a distinct problem, but it was often caused by an outdated, hierarchical management structure that stifled feedback. By identifying the root causes, the causal parents of the other distinct problems, the plan could focus its efforts on a few key areas that would naturally resolve a cascade of subsequent issues. This wasn't about ignoring the distinct problems, but about understanding their lineage, their power dynamics. In personal terms, if someone is perpetually stressed a distinct problem, a causal hierarchy approach asks, what distinct factors cause this stress? Is it overwhelming workload, unrealistic expectations, lack of boundaries, or perhaps a deep-seated fear of failure? And then, which of those is the most fundamental cause? Addressing the primary cause, for instance, learning to set boundaries, would alleviate not just the stress, but many other distinct, related anxieties and conflicts. The principle of causal hierarchy provided the much-needed framework for action, transforming a list of distinct elements into an organized, actionable map, revealing the levers that, once pulled, could effect profound and lasting change. The true genius of Steven Cesari's work lies not in isolating these principles, but in their profound and elegant synthesis, the moment where all the research, all the case studies, and all the personal struggle converge into one single, unifying, and immensely powerful idea. This was a aha moment, the grand synthesis that transcends mere problem solving and offers a fundamental reorientation of our entire approach to life. He realized that distinctness and causal hierarchy were not independent concepts, but two sides of the same coin, interdependent forces that, when understood together, unlocked what he termed the integrated clarity framework. The ultimate confusion, Cesari concluded, is not just about a lack of information or even an inability to prioritize, but a disconnect between what we perceive as distinct elements and their true causal relationships within a holistic system. We often operate as if everything is distinct and equally important, or we fall into the trap of addressing symptoms without understanding the underlying drivers. The integrated clarity framework reveals that true clarity emerges when we meticulously distinguish all the relevant components of a situation: our desires, our fears, the external circumstances, the internal beliefs, and then, with equal rigor, map out their causal hierarchy, identify which distinct elements are the fundamental drivers and which are the consequent effects. It's like having a perfectly rendered, three-dimensional model of a complex machine, where every part is distinct and its precise function and relationship to every other part are clearly understood. You don't just see the gears, you understand why each gear turns and what impact it has on the next. This paradigm shift fundamentally changes how we approach any challenge, from the mundane to the monumental. Instead of flailing in a sea of undifferentiated problems or being paralyzed by a clear but overwhelming list of options, we now possess a diagnostic tool that allows us to pinpoint a few critical leverage points that, once addressed, will ripple through the entire system, resolving a multitude of interconnected issues. This integrated understanding is the ultimate payoff, transforming the abstract concept of clarity into a practical, implementable methodology for navigating the complexities of modern existence. It's not just about seeing clearly. It's about understanding deeply, acting strategically, and living with unshakable conviction, all derived from the precise interplay of distinctness and causal understanding. So, where does this leave us, the seekers of clearer paths and more purposeful lives? We've journeyed through Steven Cesari's quest, from his initial struggles with pervasive confusion to his groundbreaking discovery of the principle of distinctness, which taught us to meticulously break down complex problems into their individual components. We then deepen our understanding with the principle of causal hierarchy, learning to identify the root causes that drive entire chains of events, moving beyond mere symptoms to address the true levers of change. Finally, we arrived at the grand synthesis, the integrated clarity framework, a powerful unification of these insights that allows us to not only distinguish every element, but also to understand its precise role and impact within the larger system. The confusion that once felt like an inescapable destiny is, in fact, a solvable puzzle. Cesari's work isn't just a philosophy. It's a blueprint, a practical methodology for dissecting the intricate tapestry of our lives and identifying the threads that truly matter. It offers a way to move beyond the reactive chaos of daily life and step into a proactive stance, where decisions are made with confidence, actions are taken with purpose, and our inner landscape is no longer a muddled mess, but a meticulously organized map. The insights gleaned from clarity are not just intellectual curiosities. They are an invitation to transform your experience of life itself. Understanding these principles is the vital first step, but true mastery, true transformation, comes from their consistent application. This journey towards clarity is an ongoing commitment to yourself, to your growth, and to profound peace that comes from knowing your path and walking it with unwavering conviction. Don't let the fog reclaim your vision. Commit to this journey of self-discovery and strategic action. If this conversation resonated with you, if you feel that yearning for true clarity, then I invite you to join a community of like-minded individuals who are actively applying these principles to reshape their lives. Subscribe to this channel and become a part of a movement dedicated to cutting through confusion, embracing purposeful action, and building a future defined by unshakable understanding and unwavering direction. Your journey to profound clarity starts now.